Hello, everybody. Welcome back once again. As always, it is your most handsome and faithful host, Jay. And we're checking in once again with the Energon Universe, but this time we're not talking about the Transformers, but instead the G.I. Joe side of things, with the first issue of the Duke series, written by Joshua Williamson and Tom Riley on art. So, I've actually been looking forward to this one a lot since I saw the preview. I'm not as big a fan of G.I. Joe. I've talked about it before on the channel a long time ago, but I do like the old Marvel comics to a degree, but I've never been as hot on the series as I have been with Transformers. So my knowledge is comparatively limited, but I do like it. I do like the series, and I am interested to see where they're going to go with it. So as always, a quick recap. So the issue starts off where what we saw in the preview, with Colonel Hawk giving kind of a exposition dump about Duke's backstory, about how he used to be the absolute best of the best of the best, but now he's kind of broken down and washed up and jaded, but they need him back in up and top condition. Though I will say it goes in a completely different direction than what I was expecting. I kind of was expecting like a Rambo kind of thing, but no, actually it's more like a political espionage thriller kind of movie, like a Jason Bourne type film. So it actually takes place after the arc of what we've seen in the Transformers comic, with Duke fighting Starscream briefly, where seeing a giant fucking robot crush a man to death with its bare hands has sent Duke down kind of a spiraling pit of despair and depression. And he's not able to let it go. He needs answers, and that's kind of put him on a very short leash with the government, and he's getting fed the fuck up. So he ends up taking matters into his own hands and basically going AWOL. So after a brief time skip, putting ourselves about 6 months later, he finds himself meeting up with a woman named Dr. Adelaide Burkhart, who contacts him due to his conversations about aliens and giant robots and stuff. Who reveals she was working on an experimental energy source utilizing space and alien technology and stuff. But as always with the government, once she starts asking too many questions, they throw her on the back end and basically disavow her. So she's talking with Duke because she has the idea that her tech is still out there and that somebody might actually be building technology like what Duke saw, and points him towards Mars Industries, which G.I. Joe fans will know as the company run by Cobra mainstay Destro. So Duke tries to break in to try and figure out what the hell's going on, only to discover a massive warehouse filled with giant tanks and airplanes and mech suits and stuff like that. The usual Cobra bullshit, which makes him assume that they are the ones behind the Transformers. Unfortunately, he gets caught, gets his ass kicked and thrown out. But instead of just capping him and throwing him in a dumpster like they probably should have, Destro decides to spare his life and instead turns his attention to his friend Dr. Burkhart, who gets a staged home invasion and kills everybody in there and gets all her tech stolen, except for one tiny little piece of something or other that she managed to smuggle to give to Duke. Unfortunately, the police, who I'm going to assume are probably Cobra goons or Destro's goons in disguise, where they're waiting for Duke and open fire on him, attempting to frame him as the culprit behind the massacre. But, of course, Duke escapes, and he runs off into the night. Now he's pissed the fuck off, and he's not, the usual kind of setup of, he just wanted answers, but now he wants revenge, and he's not going to stop. You've seen this kind of spy thriller type story before. And we end with a tease of, Colonel Hawk calling in two other G.I. Joe mainstays in order to get Duke, in order to basically stop Duke, Stalker and Rock and Roll. And that's where the issue ends. So, not quite as in-depth of an explanation as I usually give, but to be fair, this one's much more action-oriented than the Transformers books, at least so far up to this point. Since at this point, G.I. Joe doesn't exist in this universe, that's what they're setting up as doing like an origin story for both Cobra and G.I. Joe. There's no real exposition to give beyond what's relevant to Duke at the moment. So the story is mostly related to the individual story there, as I've described. But I really liked it. It was a very strong first issue. It sets the stage very well. Duke as a character comes very well formed already. I really like the arc they're setting up with him. I do like the idea of what they're doing, like the spy fiction kind of thing, instead of just more, I don't want to say generic, because G.I. Joe is never really like generic, but like military action kind of stuff. So it's definitely an interesting take. It's definitely a a new way to do GI Joe, I think. And it's definitely an interesting way to incorporate GI Joe into the setting. Again, where they don't already exist, so we're gonna build up to it. I think that's nice. And I like the kind of espionage stuff with maybe Cobra and maybe Destro are related to the Transformers, maybe not. I mean, obviously they're not. We know they're not, but from an outside perspective, that works as a nice storyline and a nice way to build up to a greater narrative. I like that. I do really like that. I enjoy so far that it's very much standalone. I enjoy Williamson's writing, but I will agree that a lot of times, especially in like a lot of the books he's done recently, like the Flash, when he was doing this run on the Flash, he got really like continuity heavy at a lot of points of tying in stuff from older runs and older continuities, which some people got annoyed by. I personally really like that kind of stuff, but I can agree that at some points it does become overbearing. But I like that he's so far avoided that. There's been a couple little quick like nods here and there. There's a couple, mostly within the realm of G.I. Joe, like referencing certain names in the background or setting up things with certain characters, like obviously with Destro. And I like so far that they're very much keeping the robots in disguise aspect of Transformers, where people they're kind of treated as like a conspiracy thing. Like when Duke goes to visit Dr. Burkhart, she's got like a UFO, the usual kind of conspiracy nerd set up as like a disguise to hide her kind of thing. You've seen it. You've seen the cliche UFO nerd in media before. And I like that as like an idea of a smokescreen. I think it's just a quick gag. It's not like making fun of conspiracy theorists or UFO nut jobs or anything like that. I do appreciate that. A lot of books, when they try to include that character, they just use it as a quick punchline to make fun of it. And it's like a punching bag, kind of like a straw man. And here it's just to accentuate the universe. And, like, oh, people are talking about these things anyways, these things are happening. Maybe all this other stuff is real too. And though, speaking of continuity, Williamson, you motherfucker, don't think that I didn't notice you put a fucking reference to Onyx Prime and IDW in that fucking scene there, you son of a bitch. I thought we all agreed to never fucking talk about that storyline again, but I guess you didn't get the memo. But no, other than a quick little gags, it's very much its own thing. It's using, like, the G.I. Joe iconography so far, but it's really just kind of built on its own story. And I like that. I do like the story. I do like the idea they're setting up with, like, the spy fiction thriller type espionage, political, whatever the fuck, whatever you want to call that genre. Like I said, you kind of have you've seen this genre before done a billion times. So I think so far it's not really setting up to be anything much original, other than the fact that it's G.I. Joe and Transformers. But I do like that. You don't really need to go too crazy with a premise like that. So I think that's fine. Duke as a character is good. I do like his setup. Very interesting take on Duke so far. He's usually very much the kind of clean-cut military man, and they're going for a different angle here, which I'm sure by the end of this main story arc, whenever G.I. Joe actually starts to exist, he'll kind of revert back, or not necessarily revert, but you get the idea. He'll become more like his classic counterpart, which I'm fine with as some character growth idea, but as the moment is, I do like his character. There really aren't that many other characters to speak of, because the only other real characters were the Colonel, who is barely in the book, Dr. Burkhart, who's dead, and Destro, who's in like one page and doesn't do anything. Other than that, it's mostly a lot of faceless goons, which is fine. You don't need to overload the book first thing in the morning. I think that's something that Transformers learned as well, and it's been working pretty well so far. But beyond that, I don't have a whole lot to say about the story. I've kind of said what I wanted to say about the actual narrative setup, and so far it's pretty good. Obviously, it's issue 1, so there's only so much space you can really go and build off of at the moment. The action so far has just kind of been okay. I mean, it's not, you don't really have as much space to play with action as you do in Transformers, obviously. So far, even then, even if we had a bigger cast where just like, a couple guys with guns, we can't really do as much exciting shit as Transformers can. But it's not like it's bad or anything. And I do really enjoy the art. They do manage to very faithfully recreate the kind of cinematic shots and camera angles and general flow of action that you would see in this kind of story in like a movie, or, I guess really only a movie is the only other option. But you get what I'm trying to say. is they do very faithfully recreate the kind of angles and shots and especially the lighting and the colors. That's really what I like the most about the book is the color palette. It's compared to Transformers, which is very vibrant, but it's kind of muted, like I had said. The book has a very limited color palette, at least from page to page, where every kind of page will only really have like maybe 2 or 3 colors at most, and it's very heavily clad in that predominant color of the scene. Like a lot of panels are very heavily clad in like light blues or kind of yellowy oranges. Very moody color palettes, very striking balance of the colors. It's really good. I really like that. It's very cinematic. I do really enjoy that. But yeah, overall, the entire crew, Williamson definitely understands the genre. Riley definitely understands the genre. Of course, because I'm talking about the coloring. Jordi Belair, I think I'm getting that right. His coloring is really good as well. All three work together very well to enhance this, the overall setting and the story with the art and just the scripting and everything in general. Really ties this story together, I think is the best part. It's each aspect, like the story itself is so far good, but not remarkable. But I think so far the art and the layout and the scripting and just everything else in general really ties it into one bigger picture. So, which is not to say that the story was bad or anything. Like I said, it's compared to the first issue of Transformers, it's a little bit of a step down, I think, just in terms of overall enjoyment, but that doesn't mean it's necessarily bad. I do really enjoy this first issue. And I think so far people are agreeing, considering the book hit number 2 on the sales list this week it came out. So, hey, that says a lot of good things about the longevity of this book. So overall, I really enjoyed it. Again, I'm much like with Transformers. I'm excited to see what they're going to do with the G.I. Joe stuff. I believe Cobra Commander's book is going to be coming out next in like a week or so. I don't actually have a date listed anywhere that I could find. But I know the next Transformers issue comes out in like a week or 2. So more than likely we're going to be checking up on what our old pal Cobra Commander's up to, and then we're going to be going back to the Transformers for a bit. And I think Void Rivals has another issue out, so probably see that in sometime soon. I am working on a little bit of a longer video, so once that's done, I'll probably bang out a more in-depth review of that series, and then we'll go from there. So overall, I really enjoy it. As always, the Energon Universe is still cooking pretty hot, and I'm still excited to see where things go. So as always, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you all next time.